I'm going to take you on a walkthrough of the integration builder for Dynamics SL. I'm going to start out with an integration for accounts payable, so we get an example of how the architecture of Dynamics SL comes into play for the configuration of integration builder. So to start that process, notice I picked the name of an integration, AP Invoice Integration. There's source data coming directly from SQL Server, so the data does come directly out of SQL Server. That's your source, and your target is a specific screen in Dynamics SL. So as an example, I'm going to go into Accounts Payable, Voucher and Adjustment Entry, and I will now have the Voucher and Adjustment Entry screen open. I'm going to draw some parallels between Integration Builder and the Voucher and Adjustment Entry screen. You can see that I can do a lookup of a batch in here, and this target 03010,000 is actually the name of that screen. So the object that you're calling is in fact the Dynamics SL screen. So essentially what we've done is we deconstructed the components or all of the different arguments necessary to run the object model. And we really are using Dynamics SL's API behind this. It's just that we made it all parameter driven. So to illustrate that, we'll take a look at, in order to get at your data source, you have to have a DB login in order to get into SQL Server. So there's an example of a database login to get into SQL Server. In order to instantiate the object model or start the object model, you have to have a Solomon login or Dynamics SL login. And you can see that I've got a company, username, and a password that I'm going into. So everything that would normally be necessary to just simply log into Dynamics SL. Then I've got my target screen. So now this would be actually the screen that it's calling. And if we look back here at Integration Builder, coming out of your source data, you have all your source fields on the left. To the screen that you're going into, you have all of your target fields on the right, or those are the objects that you're hitting specifically on the .NET screen. Now it just turns out that we named all of the fields in our source stored procedure to be the same as the target field in the screen. That is not necessary. We simply did that as a simple way of, when you go to build this integration, it makes it kind of a no-brainer for setting that up. So the simple approach for running an integration is that someone can come into this screen, they can pick an integration, and all they would have to do is send the data to, click the button to send data to Solomon. Now it is possible to put the integration on a timer and to also have it be run by an event. One client is using Scribe, to where they read data in to SQL Server with Scribe. As soon as the data is inside of a table, Scribe then calls Integration Builder and runs the integration. So it is definitely possible to have this more or less run lights out. You do consume a full concurrent user in Dynamics SL. That's where you have this SL login, and you do in fact consume one of the users. So once the integration runs, it terminates, shuts it back down, and you're no longer using that user. We also have the ability to run a post process, and this too can be run automatically, or it can be initiated after the integration has run. And the post process will go back to your source data, or it can go back to your source data and mark that data off as processed. What we typically do is we mark the data off with the batch number, the reference number. Sometimes we even go back with things like the data check was paid, or the check number, check amount, things like that. So the post process can be used for many different things. Okay, to continue talking about the arguments that take place in here, If you're not familiar with Dynamics SL, some screens have as many as 3 different levels of data. Now, the term level simply describes a one-to-many relationship or a one-to-one relationship. So this one batch can have many documents inside of there. So the batch level happens to be 0, this level happens to be 1, and this level happens to be 2. Now, that's really a programming concept that if you get into customizations of the Dynamics SL screens, you can actually look at the properties of this object. I'm on vendor ID, and if I was in the customize mode, I could look at the properties on that object and I would see that that was level 1. Well, you'll see over here in Integration Builder, we too have to have those levels, because when you run an object model integration, that's something that needs to be provided. So we've got that. This save on change and the level check is something that causes events to fire in here and determine, do I want one batch per vendor? Do I want one batch per a day? So if I wanted to have a batch with many documents in here, you can dictate that. So that's a decision that has to be made when you are setting up these integrations.